How are you doing this evening? Hey, we had an interesting thing happen today. We had another botched delivery of our appliances. And, I have to confess, it started getting really frustrating. Kelly calmed me down a little bit on it, but this has been one mistake after another since we bought and paid for these things in May. We can't seem to get them to the house. And so we got a delivery today. It was supposed to be 2 items. 1 item came, and we find out that somehow Lowe's has lost the other item. It was there last Saturday, and today it's gone, and nobody knows what happened. Lowe's has been fantastic. They've taken good care of us. They've apologized. They've compensated us. It's all worked out really well. And, the kitchen is coming along at a rate that allows these things to come in late, doesn't really cause too much of an inconvenience for us. But it's been a test of patience. And not coincidentally, I've been preaching on patience and compassion and understanding and mercy. And during this whole time, my mercy has been tested. My compassion has been tested. My patience has been tested. And I say that so that you know that when I stand up there on Sunday morning and preach about these things, well, God expects me to use them in my life as well. So I'm not just there to tell you what to do. I'm there to tell you how we should live as a body. So when I say we need to be Christ in the community, God gives me the opportunity to be Christ with Lowe's and the people at Lowe's. And, I don't always handle that well, and we all stumble from time to time. I got to be honest with you, even at that, I'm thankful that those things happen because they're a reminder that I still have things to learn. I still have a ways to go. I'm not perfect yet. So God graciously shows me these things and gives me the opportunity to learn a lesson. And so I'm sure you have those opportunities too. And I'm sure that sometimes we handle them very well. Sometimes we don't handle them well. I believe that God is pleased when we do, but that he's compassionate and merciful and gracious when we don't. And so that's what he's trying to teach us. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, because I could have gone to Lowe's in the name of my rights, in the name of what I had paid for, in the name of what I had been deprived of, in the name of what people had told me and it didn't seem to be true. But I think God calls us to lay those things aside and focus on something else. So the question is, what do we come in the name of? And so I want to talk to you about that. Grab yourself something to relax with. And when you're situated, let's open up our Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 17. 1 Samuel 17. This is the story of David and Goliath. And you know the story. The Philistines are gathered outside of Jerusalem. They're coming against the Hebrew army. They're standing on one hill. The Hebrew army's on the next hill. They're in the valley of Elah. Here's what the valley of Elah looks like. And the Hebrews would have been on the left hill, the Philistines on the right hill. It's a large valley, very big hills. And, every day Goliath walks down in the middle of the valley, challenges the Hebrews. And he says, let's fight it out, one man on one man, and that will determine the victor. And which sounds kind of fair, other than the fact that Goliath is about 9 feet tall. He's huge. His sword is 7 feet tall, 6.5, 7 feet tall, and his spear is just as long as well. So he's a pretty intimidating, pretty scary guy. And nobody's willing to come up against him, even King Saul, who's there with his army. So in the middle of all this tension, David shows up with snacks for his 2 brothers that are with the army. His father sent him with some cheese and some bread. And David sees what's going on, and he says, what's wrong with you people? Don't you know God's on our side? This Philistine is absolutely nothing. How come nobody's out there going out and fighting him? I'll go out and fight him. And so nobody thinks that's a good idea because David is ruddy, which means he's fair-complected, probably red-haired. He's small. He's not a very big guy. And he's only 15 years old or so. But nobody else will go. So finally Saul sends David out. So David steps into the valley, picks up 5 smooth stones. All he's got is a sling with him. And Goliath is indignant. Who sends this little guy? I'm going to break him like a twig. The birds of the air are going to feast on the bodies of the Hebrews today because of this. And Saul's just really upset. And so he's so angry that he's incensed, and David is standing there with his 5 stones and his sling. So this is what happens in verse 45 of 1 Samuel 17. Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel." Now watch that. He comes in the name, he doesn't come in the name of the Hebrews, doesn't come in the name of the indignation that he's suffering, doesn't come in the name of honor and glory or winning a war or anything. I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Now he's there because Goliath has defied God, not because they're attacking Israel or trying to sack Jerusalem. Verse 46, "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand." Now watch this. David says, yes, I'm going to fight you, but I'm not going to fight you with earthly weapons. It is God who is going to fight you. And he's going to fight you in order that the world may know, and all you people here may know, that there is a God in Israel, and he is powerful, and he is mighty, far mightier than anything you've ever seen. So David doesn't go in the name of anything other than the Lord who has been defied. He doesn't depend on anything other than the Lord and his strength. Yes, he's got smooth stones, but there's no way David's going to win this fight with these little rocks and a sling against a guy this big without supernatural help. Now, I think this can be helpful to us as we engage in some of the battles we have around us, because our temptation can be to utilize earthly weapons, to utilize the weapons of the system, to utilize the weapons that we feel we're good at using, debate or accusation, or, I mean, we can go on anything. But when we stand up in the name of the Lord and by his strength, exhibiting his compassion and mercy, yes, David fought, but look at how he fought. He fought a supernatural battle. He was depending on God to send this little stone to victory over Goliath. It's a totally unreasonable situation, but total dependence on God. Total dependence on something supernatural to win that battle. And David knew that once something supernatural would win that battle, that the people around him would know that there's a God in Israel. Are we acting like there's a God in the church today? Are we acting like we can offer up something that seems impossible to win the battle with and depend upon the Lord to gain the victory? It's something to think about, something to pray about. Hope that blesses you. Hey, I love you. I miss you. I'll talk to you tomorrow night.